Bruins Beat is brought to you by Ice Picks and the GameTime app.
And welcome into the Bruins Beat on CLNS Media, presented by Prize Picks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 back when you play just $5, and are presented by GameTime. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $20 off that first purchase. Terms apply. I am Evan Marinofsky. That is Conor Ryan. Connor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. Air's a little chilly today. Fall is it's here, and it's great. And a great sign of that was on Sunday. And yes, you do have that. And by the way, I even have a pumpkin iced, but I don't drink caffeine, so it's decaf. But that's how much I love pumpkin ice. That's how much I love the pumpkin flavor that I will gladly get a ton of decaf coffees if they're pumpkin, because I love pumpkin ice.
Tis the season.
It is, and peppermint in the winter. Mocha is usually my go-to flavor. I must admit, mocha is my my go-to coffee flavor, with cream and sugar, of course. Got to have cream and sugar. It's not supposed to be healthy here. Yours is butter pecan, right?
No, usually for fall I do pumpkin, but otherwise it's caramel.
Okay, I used to do that when I was younger.
Caramel swirl,
awesome.
oat milk, no sugar. Not a big sugar guy. Don't like it being too sweet.
I like it. I like it when I was little.
That wasn't a personal judgment. I wasn't.
No. I get that. When I was little, I used to love it because it would be along the bottom, so the last couple of sips would just be like sugar, and I'm like,
there you go.
This is what you want. Now it's what I'm used to. I honestly don't do it that much, so it's funny that I did it today. Anyways, Bruins open their preseason slate of action on Sunday. 3-2 loss to the Rangers, although they did score like less than 2 minutes in. So I was like, oh, all right, we're in for one.
Rolling.
Yeah, they outshot the Rangers, so they won. They won the game in my book. They outshot the Rangers. So that's a win, right? That's how it works. Must have been nice to be back, I would assume, back above the Garden. Got the old spoked B in the middle instead of the 100-year logo. How was it? How was the crowd?
Good to be back. Crowd was excited. A lot of young kids, as usually the case for all of these preseason games, but they brought the energy. Always exciting to get back in the building, get the vibes back. You could tell that I always like listening to how the music has changed over the span of a few months. You had a lot of Charlie XCX, a lot of 21 Savage. So I was like, I've vaguely heard of these songs before, which is ever a way to like feel old. It's not being up to the times with the music. And brother, I am struggling. So
we always have that TikTok.
Yes, I'm always. I only just realized that it's Brat Summer. It's already over, so I already was like 5 months behind on that. So,
I gotta say though, I wasn't up on the Charlie XCX stuff either. Like, and Sheppel Roan, my girlfriend was telling me about that like a month ago, and I was like, "Who is this? Like, I've never heard of this person." And now suddenly they're on every single radio station. That song is played at every bar I go to. It's the UMass football band. The first week of the season was playing like Hot to Go. That's like her big song. It's just fascinating how some of these artists, you hear about them once and then you just never don't hear about them again. They're forever.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm way behind the times, but I just found out what Brat Summer is, and it's already, it's fall. We're drinking pumpkin iced coffee and all that stuff. So who the hell knows where I'm going to be by the time Christmas rolls around. I'll just start watching The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. It's going to be like December 23rd or something like that. So
The Great Pumpkin Fall. We got to come up with something that how we deem fall to be. I agree with you. Anyways, so Bruins lose 3-2 to the Rangers. Where do we want to start? I think there were some guys that had good days, but one person I thought who I didn't notice much of. I kept, and you know how, like, Connor, you probably experienced this too. When you watch a game and you're trying to watch someone, right? You want to watch someone. There comes a point midway through the game where you almost kind of forget if that person's not playing that well. And you like, oh, wait, I got to watch that person. I got to watch them come off the bench and stuff. If they're just not if they're not standing out to you. To me, that was Fabian Lysell on Sunday, where, he did get kind of put on a weird line. I think it was like third. With these preseason games, there's really no first, second, third, and fourth line. But what did you think of his game on Sunday?
Underwhelming is probably the best way to put it. Again, you look at the roster they had out there for that game, and it's obviously a lot of guys that probably going to spend most of the year in Providence. A lot of maybe younger players, like Lysell is a guy that you saw him on the roster. You kind of circle it, right? And you're saying that's a guy you want to keep tabs on because that's a guy that is, has an opportunity to fight for a legitimate top 6 spot on this roster this year. Didn't do a whole lot with it, right? Like I felt like kind of what we saw the last couple of years, like kind of very one-dimensional in terms of his like approach, especially the puck on his stick. A lot of skating right ahead. At this next level, you're gonna have guys that are easy going to knock you off the puck or challenge you and make you kind of go more east-west, which I think is honestly better if he was kind of more deceptive as opposed to just going straight ahead, because it feels like you're not gonna either gonna turn the puck over or you're going to get crushed by a guy that probably is 30, 40 pounds heavier than you.
Yes.
So, I mean, yeah, it just didn't seem like you noticed him that much. Like a lot of like the times where he had the puck on his stick is either, one of those straight ahead kind of rushes that didn't lead to much or a turnover. He had 2 turnovers on the shift that like a few seconds later led to that Rangers game-winning goal in the third period. It was a bad goal given up by DiPietro, but still 2 bad turnovers by Lysell seconds earlier. Didn't do some of the little things that you want to see, especially I'm sure from the Bruins perspective in terms of, being engaged in board battles, doing some of the little things, chipping pucks out, supporting the rest of his line mates. Like it was pretty underwhelming, right? And you kind of look at how he's been so far in camp, and I don't know how much you can really gauge off of a few practices, but hasn't really popped all that much, right? And again, you look at the opportunity in front of him, and you could also make the argument, right? Like, well, it's first preseason game, which is very important. Like it's one of 7 preseason games, so he's going to have plenty of opportunities. But I also saw people being like, well, he's with Cole Koepke and John Farinacci. Like, what do you want him to do? Well, Cole Koepke and John Farinacci played better than he did, to be honest with you. I noticed those 2 guys a hell of a lot more than Fabian Lysell. So again, like, yeah, could he be better with Charlie Coyle and Brad Marchand? Yeah, true. I think absolutely, right? But you know what? If he plays like that, I don't think Brad Marchand wants him on his friggin' line. So he needs to show more.
No, and so that's the thing is like that argument I have seen a little bit of on Twitter. And if Fabian Lysell was, driving play and setting up Farinacci and Koepke and they just weren't finishing or they weren't able to get open, like all right, well, the signs are there, like put him with good line mates. The signs aren't there, at least through one game. And
Koepke scored.
In terms of
he scored in the game.
Koepke did score a goal.
And Farinacci won 10 of his 15 faceoffs. So like again, was like John Farinacci flashy? Was he a guy that you put at the top of your list when you're writing notes down? No, but then you look at the stat sheet and be like, oh, he had a couple of shots on goal, 1 faceoffs. Fabian Lysell didn't even have a shot on goal. And again, that is not the ultimate barometer. But when you then gauge the stat sheet with the eye test, you didn't see a whole lot out there. So yeah, I don't like looking at like, well, he's with a bunch of Providence guys. Well, he's going to join them in Providence if he plays like that. Like,
he's going to be on their line for the whole season playing like that.
Because they looked a lot more engaged and fighting for something than he did, and he's got a top 6 spot up for grabs. Like, again, it's one game, but man, that is not what you want to see from a guy that this feels like a make it or break it kind of fall for Lysell in terms of like they're giving him every opportunity, and that game didn't offer that much.
And I just like, I go back to being engaged in board battles, wanting, paying the price, trying to win 50-50 pucks. As Montgomery said 100 times, the puck has got to be on his stick. And to do that, you got to win those battles. And when you're not always engaged in that, or your every rush you make is just straight ahead, no real deception, just, the amount of little chip-ins he has to do with a guy like, with speed, with skill like that shouldn't be the case. That doesn't matter who you're playing with. Those are habits. You either have that or you don't. And it doesn't matter if he's playing with me and you or Brad Marchand and Charlie Coyle. Like, that stuff is just going to be prevalent if that's how you're going to play. And I agree. Like, it's a make it or break it camp. If that's Pavel Zacha in preseason game 1, it's like, all right, well, the guy has quite the body of work. We know what he can be. We know what he is. He had a bad night, whatever. This is a make it or break it year for Fabian Lysell. At least it feels that way, as you said. And, and the other thing is, when you have a guy like Fabian Lysell, who we've talked about a number of times, and we're not the only ones talking about him, everybody's talking about him as a potential top 6 winger. When you're out there against, I almost fashioned that game. I don't know if you ever played Hockey Ultimate Team in any of the NHL video games, but when you first start out with your team, they give you sort of like an introductory pack based on your favorite team. So if your favorite team is the Bruins, they'll give you like, Pavel Zacha, who's like an 82 overall. Maybe they'll give you, like a Nikita Zadorov, who's like a 79 or an 80 overall. And then the rest are Providence guys or AHL players from around the league. That's sort of like what yesterday's game was. You had a couple NHL regulars and mostly Providence guys around them. So in a game like that, you would expect Fabian Lysell to come out and drive play and be around the puck a lot and be just not a passenger. And he was a passenger. And they play again Tuesday night. We'll see if he plays. There's 5 more games after that. He'll have plenty of opportunity. There's also tons of time in training camp for sure. But in a game like that, where you're going up against a lot of AHL guys, fringe NHL guys, God, dude, drive play. Like, be around the puck more. Get the puck. Like, and it sounds so simple. But when you have a guy that has his ceiling, it's like, dude, like, own it. Own the moment. Be out there every shift and be the guy. And you just didn't see that. And again, it's not the end of the world. There's more games to be played. But I don't know. I expected just to notice him more, and I just really didn't.
Yeah, no, and you add in the fact of just how important a strong camp is for Lysell. Like, it's not like the season rests on Fabian Lysell. Probably rests more on the goalie you haven't signed yet. But how much would it lift this team, right, if a guy like Lysell did pop in the preseason, which, again, he still has time, but, ran away with the job, kind of like Poitras last year. He was so good that we even knew the very end of preseason. We talked about it, but it was a foregone conclusion, right, that Poitras was staying with how well he played during that stretch, right?
Yes.
Like, to have Lysell submit a camp like that where you can plug him into that top 6 role and just how much that makes the rest of your lineup that much stronger, where maybe Poitras is your third-line center. Maybe you have Tyler Johnson as your spare forward or something like that. Like, having a guy like Lysell take one of those spots, and you put a lot of very talented players like Frederick and Geeky and Poitras, Brazeau, all these guys further down the lineup, like, makes your overall team better. But as much as you want that to happen, it also falls on the player to show that talent that we all have seen. We've all seen the videos. We've seen the highlights. It's got to do at the NHL level. And again, like, you want to talk about the level of competition of how he needs better guys around him. Well, if you want to spin that, a lot of who he played yesterday was the Hartford Wolfpack. A lot of those guys are going to be on the Hartford Wolfpack, not the New York Rangers, and he didn't show out in that game at all. So what does that say about what he's going to do at the next level if he plays like that? You just can't operate at that level and expect to be getting legitimate NHL reps going into this year. He has to be better.
No, you can't. I agree with you. We'll get into the good. It wasn't all bad. It actually was, I thought, pretty good on Sunday. But first, quick word from our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. One Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right, only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on Prize Picks because it's gone when September ends. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money, even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, your picks are still live. Big questions going into the football season. Will Patrick Mahomes throw for more or less than 267.5 yards one week? Will Jalen Hurts throw for 240.5 passing yards another? Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus because it's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Now, back to the show. So, not all bad on Sunday. Not all bad. Someone I thought who had a really good game was Trevor Kuntar. Scores a goal, big hit, plays that pest kind of game. And I think for him, I don't think any of us have him on sort of the our preseason predictions for the Bruins, the Boston Bruins lineup. But I think if he continues to play the way he did on Sunday, he's going to be a guy that they potentially call up when injuries strike.
Yeah, absolutely. He's kind of been as advertised, right? Even in practices, battle drills, you notice him because it seems like every time he's on the ice, he's looking to bug the shit out of someone, hit someone, and he kind of hangs around the net front, which is if you're trying to carve out a spot as a bottom six NHLer, pretty good formula to have. Piss someone off, hit someone, hang around the net front, right? So, and he kind of does that to a T. So, yeah, I thought he was really engaged. I really kind of liked that fourth line as a whole. A lot of guys that, again, you maybe don't pencil in for October 8th, but guys that over the span of a season where injuries are going to sprout up, guys like him, Patrick Brown, who obviously played a couple of games up last year, and Jackson Nelson maybe is a little bit further down, but seemed like a good value add. Big centerman they signed out of the University of Minnesota. I thought he was active. He had a couple of really good grade A chances. I think probably the best save for Louis Domingue, I think, was on a rebound shot in close by Jackson Nelson. So again, not anything flashy from that line, but you don't really have to be if that's kind of what your DNA is. So in terms of, is he going to leapfrog a Beecher, a Max Jones, a Kastelik, even a Riley Duran? Maybe not, but maybe in that same tier of a guy like Duran, where maybe if he doesn't make the team, when the first kind of injury sprouts up on the bottom six, I think guys like Kuntar and Duran are going to be those next guys up. But also Duran, I thought was really engaged too. And he seems like a guy that I'm fascinated once they, shrink the camp roster down and it comes to where does Max Jones fit? Is he do they view him as maybe a guy that plays on the third line, or is it going to be the cast of Jones, Beecher kind of grouping, right? Because I think that kind of quartet, add in Duran to that group, all are kind of in the running, and all have looked pretty promising from what we've seen so far.
Yeah, I thought Jackson Nelson was great. I hadn't seen a lot of him. He was out at Minnesota, so I didn't see a ton of him over the last couple of years, but big guy, was always in the play, engaged. So I liked him, had some scoring chances. So again, a good college free agent signing for sure. Someone who probably will be on the fourth line, at least start the season, is Mark Kastelik. And that's just chaos, in a good way. First shift, huge hit. Brick was pointing that out on the broadcast. Drops his gloves the second he is challenged. Just all right, we're getting this out of the way now. Fitzgerald didn't go with him. But I think if that's what Kastelik's going to bring you, which is just chaos in the offensive zone, you take it. And I like the way I like the way he played, and I think that he's going to be a guy that Bruins fans are going to like, and I think he's going to be someone that sticks on that fourth line for most of the year, if not all.
Yeah, you definitely want to limit the offensive zone penalties. He had 2 of them. He said kind of after the game that wasn't trying to do that. Obviously, I think it was probably more of the excitement, those kind of things. First game in a Bruins sweater. He's not known for taking a lot of penalties. He actually is known for drawing a lot of penalties, which is something I think the Bruins will definitely take. Kind of that replacement for Lauko, who seemed like he was so good at putting guys under duress, getting a lot of stick infractions, those kinds of things. So, really liked what Kastelik brought. Really liked that whole line. It's 3 guys that are physical, can do a little bit of everything, but also skate really well. You saw, there's a couple of those shifts where those guys were swarming him, Beecher, and Duran. I thought Duran held his own, was really engaged in board battles, has a really, really high motor that, you look at however that group kind of, shakes itself out once you add in a guy like Max Jones. I'm really, really high on what I think that fourth line can be. I don't think we're going to look at this team in the end of March and you've got 3 of those guys that are all like have like 25-ish points or something like that, right? But I think they can really be an impactful, prototypical, impactful, strong line in today's NHL. Like guys that are 6'2", 6'3", or above, but also skate really well and can do a little bit of everything. I really like what Kastelik brought in that game yesterday.
Yeah, and Durant almost scored. They thought he did on that
off of that Lohrei rush, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of Lohrei, I thought he was phenomenal. And to me, like what Lohrei brought, rushing pucks, assertiveness in the defensive zone, all that stuff, is kind of what you wanted to see out of Lysell, just up front. Like I want to notice you every shift. I want you driving play, things like that. I don't mean to keep bashing Lysell, but like that's a great example. Lohrei is definitely more secure in a spot in Boston than Fabian Lysell is, but still you got to earn it. I mean, Parker Wotherspoon's right there. Like if Lohrei isn't ready in camp or not playing well, they can slot Wotherspoon in. Who had a great fight on Sunday. Stood up for himself after kind of, that first hit was definitely late. Second hit, fair, a little borderline. But Lohrei, again, like he amazes me. His ability to go up and down the ice with the puck, make things happen. He had that Durant play, that was all him. Mm-hmm. So good for Mason Lohrei. Needs to continue doing that, obviously. And so, yeah. And any other big thoughts from that first game that you had?
I think a lot of the fourth line kind of candidates all stood out. Lysell didn't notice him that much. Didn't notice Merkulov all that much, but he did seem more engaged in terms of kind of the smaller details. Like he saw him more, trying to fish out pucks against the boards, doing the little things. So wasn't great. Didn't really stand out all that much. He did get a secondary assist on Kepke's first goal, but still kind of
Billy Sweezy bomb from the point.
Yes,
that was where
exactly.
That came
from. Team high 5 hits from Billy Sweezy as well. So, but yeah, like Merkulov maybe wasn't flashy, but seemed like he was trying to do the little things that I think the Bruins want him to do. So we'll see how he kind of builds off of that. And then like goaltending,
not great.
I would say,
no, not great.
Bussy wasn't really happy after the game. He mentioned like first goal was screened pretty well, but that second one, the Hedl power play goal, was not happy. Was kind of beat clean there, glove side. And mentioned that he couldn't, from the way the team was playing with a lot of pace in that first period, can't go down 2-1 in that spot. So again, not the end of the world. Not that I think Don Sweeney and all the guys looked at that game and were just calling Louis Gross and trying to get the deal done.
Swayman's like, yes.
I don't think we're sounding the alarm, but still, for a guy like Bussy, who, regardless of what Swayman's contract is, could be in the running for a backup role competing with Korpisalo, like probably a little bit more of a tighter performance there. But again, it is preseason game 1 of 7, so we've got a long ways to go.
It is also a hard spot for goalies. I think, look at like that DiPietro goal where, I mean, that was just a complete softie, from a bad angle. Shooter just changed it. But again, I mean, like you and I can save that, maybe not actually, but but that's an easier one. I think you and I in mini hockey or street hockey, I think we have that shot.
Sure.
But it's a tough spot for goalies. I mean, DiPietro comes in halfway through the game. And I'm not trying to make excuses, but like these are their first games in a while. Goalies typically coming off like the summer are not great. That's why training camp is so important for goalies because, summer hockey and that stuff is not the same, so I do think some leniency should be applied there. But yeah, not the strongest day from Bussy and DiPietro. But speaking of goaltending, got to talk Jeremy Swayman. We got to do a Jeremy Swayman segment every episode. First, though, quick word from our friends over at GameTime. Fall is beginning, which means football is back. Nothing beats a college football atmosphere. And with both college and NFL games, who doesn't love a good tailgate? Get to the game with GameTime. GameTime has a new feature called GameTime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. GameTime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. This fall, my friends and I are going to the Patriots-Titans game in Tennessee. And how will we get tickets for the game? GameTime, of course. The super deal has been amazing to us in the past, and there's no doubt it will be great to us again. I just love the curated deals, which make it easier to find the best price on great seats. Some other features I love are the lowest price guarantee, or GameTime will credit you 110% of the difference. GameTime Picks curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. All-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. So, download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now, back to the show. Nothing new on the Jeremy Swayman front in terms of news. There's not any updates on contracts or anything like that, at least that I've seen. Maybe when he goes on the Talk Tua podcast, that'll be where he drops all his knowledge of contracts and the market, and I'm sure it'll be a fascinating, enlightening conversation. Aren't you excited, Connor?
Yep. Yeah, I sure am, Evan. I like how I'm like, I don't know anything about Charlie XCX or anything like that, but I do know about that podcast. So
I know about that podcast solely because I just see the Twitter memes.
Yes.
I saw a picture of like Kim Jong-un on the Talk to a podcast, and I thought it was hysterical.
I thought that was real.
Yeah, he's going to be on next week. He's actually after Jeremy Swayman. Because Jeremy Swayman's this week, and then Kim Jong-un next week. Lord knows in 3 weeks from now who's going to be on. Yeah, I got to say, like, of all the trends, because, social media trends, you and I, we keep pretty up on things on social media. We do.
Try.
That trend did not make me laugh once. Like, I never saw that, like, Hawk Tua clip and was like, wow, that's so incredible. What a moment they captured. That was the stupidest thing from the jump. I'm happy to say I never found that funny, but she's turned this into like a thing. I mean,
yeah, we're talking about the podcast ranking. She's kicking our ass right now, Evan.
She kicks our ass completely. Her first episode, I looked because after I tweeted that Swayman thing, which by the way, the minute I thought of it, I was like, yes, yes, there it is. I still got it. But I went and looked on YouTube because I'm like, oh, like how many people are watching this? Her first episode got 1 million views. Second one, though, got 329,000. So she's, you and I, we stay around the same number of views. She's going to start trending down. We don't trend down. We're right around the same
consistent.
Number,
Yes.
That's all that matters. Anyways, Jeremy Swayman, not any new news, but Hags brought this up to me on Friday, and I'm curious your take. The idea of him getting traded. You hear like Felger and Maz right now being like, trade him. You don't need him. Anybody can play goalie for the Bruins, this and that. Hags brought up the idea in sort of a less aggressive way of, if this continues on this road, they're probably going to have to trade him, this and that. Or they should think about it. I'm nowhere near that. I think it's a really bad idea to deal him. I mean, unless like they're fighting in the negotiation room and, they really aren't taking each other's calls. And we're at like, November 20th and they don't have a deal yet. Like maybe, but you just drop a penny?
I did. Nice. I was trying to get my change out I was trying to get the change out for see how this negotiation's going.
For Jeremy, I have this quarter. Will this get
us over the finish line, dude.
But trading, is that something that is on your mind? Or how do you feel about it?
No, I don't think it's something that you look at the multiple scenarios that can play out. Like, as you said, unless like these negotiations are so far gone that there's no way to bridge this gap, or like the sentiment is so, sour where they're into the middle of October and the Bruins are taking on water and losing games. And there's legitimate animosity over where this has gone and how it's hurting the team. Maybe that's what could change the sentiment in terms of striking a trade, but I still look at like what return are you going to get? How many teams have the cap space to satisfy what Jeremy Swayman and his representatives want in a new contract? Like how many teams are realistically out there to give him, I don't know, a McAvoy contract? And how many of those handful of teams with that cap space also can give you an offer that satisfies giving up a 25-year-old goalie? Like at that point, are you better to be like throwing up the double birds and be like, all right, then don't play a year. Like, that's the thing. Like, and maybe that's
like we're not giving you up.
Yeah. Like, unless that's just poor asset management if he ends up walking for nothing after that. But it just feels like that is the nuclear option, right? Like, I still would be mildly surprised, I think is how I would term it now, if they open the year without him on the roster. I still think a lot has to go really wrong for us to really have another Nylander-like situation there play out. But yeah, it's tough to gauge when exactly the finish line is going to be, but to reach a point where the guy is traded and who knows what the return is. If you told me like in the offseason it was going to get this contentious and it's like, all right, well, you loop him in a package for Draisaitl, then you'd be like, okay, then maybe then you weigh it. But like, what are you going to get for a 25-year-old goalie that is playing at a high level, is the reason you were in the second round of the playoffs last year, has, shown improvement every single year? Like, I think to have it reach that level, things would have to go so ass backwards and so sideways in these negotiations that, like, shame on everyone involved if it gets to that point, right? Shame on if the Bruins aren't budging there, but shame on Swayman and his agents for grossly exaggerating what they think they're worth. And we are a pro getting bad podcast, but if it hits the point where you're getting traded, Jesus, guys, right? Like,
yeah, that's egregious. I agree with you. I mean, you look at like Yaroslav Askarov, who was the top goalie prospect for the Predators. He gets dealt to the Sharks in August. Now he's younger, I think, way less experienced than Jeremy Swayman is.
Barely played.
And he went for a forward prospect, David Edstrom, goalie prospect Magnus Corona, and a conditional first-round pick in the 25 NHL draft. I think it's top 10 protected. So again, a first, a goalie prospect, and a player. I mean, Swayman, if we're gonna play this game, you're at least getting back a high first, a top prospect, and a legit NHL piece to your roster that fills out, that salary cap space. Like, you should not be dealing him. Like I said this to Hags, you shouldn't be dealing him out of spite. You shouldn't be like, all right, we're going to send you to Utah or Anaheim. Have fun over there, and we don't care what we get back. Not saying that they're going to do that, but, like, please don't do that. I'm with you. I think they wrap this up in the next 2 weeks. Like, and again, that's not ideal. That's middle of camp. So, I mean, that's, so we're winding down September here, by the way. September is flown.
I know.
And so I just, that's the thing where, like, but trading, I don't see it. You drafted and developed this guy. Like, and again, like, we'll see it through camp. We'll see how, if the Korpisalo and Bussy tandem is what they go with to start the year, if they can't come to an agreement with Swayman. Like, goalie Bob can work some magic, but I don't know if he's working magic that puts, like, Jonas Korpisalo and Brandon Bussy's, the tandem, into being, like, cup contenders, which is what they should be. And, also, like, if, let's say they did trade Swayman, or let's say, like, they missed Swayman for the first 3 months of the year. Someone like Brad Marchand cannot be happy with that because he doesn't have a ton of years left in the league. He wants to win another cup, and that puts a huge damper on it. So, yeah, I trading him, to me, I don't see it right now, at least. I don't. But we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it for sure.
Again,
we'll do that.
We will keep on talking about this, and I will be very happy when we don't have to talk about this. So we do hope there's a resolution next couple of weeks, because if it is in the middle of October and, like, I would feel bad for both Korpisalo and Bussy if one of them's in net October 8th in Florida, banner raising ceremony, what's going to be a very emotional, physical game. I'd feel bad for either one of those guys getting thrown to the wolves there in that spot. And again, these are competitors, these are pro athletes. They probably thrive on those opportunities, but if Swayman's not there in net, that is a failure on, I think, all parties involved in not being able to get this shit sorted out.
That's just Tom Brady stepping in for Drew Bledsoe.
Exactly.
That's all that is. That's all that'll be on October 8th. Connor, what can the people look forward to from you over at the Boston Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, well, have you covered every step of the way this preseason training camp going into the regular season, whether that's recaps, features, roster breakdowns, analysis, all that good stuff you can find over at Boston.com and the Boston Globe. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. You Bruins Beat listeners, have a great rest of your week.